Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Discovery Pod with Eve. I am Eve Richards. We've got a very exciting show today, and I'm so grateful to be co-hosting this episode with Kathy Kolla. She's an actress, producer, director. She's been in Arrested Development. I can't even talk today. American Dreams. And so many others. She's producing, writing. Kathy, welcome back to another episode. It's so good to have you back.
Thank you for having me. This is so fun. I love working with you, Eve.
Thank you.
This is exciting. We're doing good work here.
I love it. It's been so much fun having you here today. And also, Kathy, I know you're so busy because every time I'm on Instagram, you're always posting something new, a new project. Tell us, what are you currently working on?
I'm working on a bunch of projects. I'm working on actually a female empowerment project. I have so many projects that I'm pitching to networks. Where there's one about beauty, the beauty industry, and how we abuse ourselves sometimes, women and men, trying to fit some standard that it's not real. So I'm working on something with that. I don't know if you know my Sherry Belafonte film that was nationwide for 3 years, Plastic Daydream.
Wow.
That touches on the same subject.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know what? I am so amazed by what you just shared about what you're working on about beauty, because it's one of those topics that a lot of people don't talk about. But congratulations on everything that you're working on.
You.
So we've got an amazing guest today, and please go ahead and introduce our guest.
Yes. So today we have Holly Bachman. She is a powerful advocate for adoptees and people of mixed heritage. She is the founder and CEO of this incredible foundation, Mixed Roots Foundation. It's a global nonprofit dedicated to raising awareness, providing support, and fostering a sense of community for adoptees and individuals navigating multicultural identity. As an adoptee herself, Holly has transformed her personal journey into a movement that now amplifies thousands of voices worldwide, using storytelling, sports collaboration, and community-driven campaigns to drive awareness and belonging, which is really important. Welcome, Holly.
Thank you so much. I'm honored to be here.
So, Holly, your work with Mixed Roots Foundation started from your own journey being an adoptee and struggling with identity. Please tell us when that moment was that you realized that this is something that I need to speak about and that can help other people.
Absolutely. I always like to say when someone asks me that, do you want the long story or the short story? So I was adopted from South Korea and then grew up in Minnesota. Minnesota actually is the largest population of Korean adoptees in the world. There's over 20,000 of us, 2 for every lake. And then as far as my journey, was born in Gunsan, which is about 3 hours south of Seoul. And I was 3.5 years old. My family in Minnesota was actually trying to seek a little girl between like 2 and 5 years old, and they got 3.5. I have 2 older brothers that I grew up with. And just been very honored and blessed and grateful. I have a great family. And everyone says, like, when did you know you were adopted? Well, I kind of knew when I came off the plane. My family is all pretty much European white. And so then, of course, I'm brown and Asian. But being 3.5 years old, I was actually speaking the language when I came to the United States. I always say I was fresh off the plane, not fresh off the boat. Back in the days, a lot of the international adoptees, particularly for Korea, were actually flown over. And actually the history of Delta Airlines. I still actually have all my plane tickets of when I've been to the United States and back and forth twice. So for that journey, it's been truly remarkable, just the beginning of it. But going back to what you were talking about the sense of belonging, there were challenges of not feeling like I belonged in a predominantly white community, rural. And so kind of to fast forward to high school, it was in 1995 when my mom was like, Holly, there's an essay contest through your Children's Home Society. It's my adoption agency. And I'm like, okay, and this was like in September, October in 1995. And she goes, I'll help you write it, So the question was, what would a trip to Korea mean in my life? And she was able to help me hone in on a one-page essay. And fast forward, trip of a lifetime, 1,200 applications nationwide, 45 got reviewed, and 14 got to go. And I was one of the Korean adoptees that was able to go in 1995, so 30 years ago.
Amazing.
And literally November 11th. And so just a couple days ago, it was November 11th in 1995 that I went. And that was my first trip to Korea since being adopted. So life-changing experience. Was not a trip to necessarily, look at my, biological roots. It was more the cultural roots of realizing that I'm not white. Yeah. I have Korean heritage. Yeah. I had to learn quickly how to use chopsticks. I had to, learn about kimchi and just all of the cultural nuances. But wonderful trip.
Wow. So, many adoptees and mixed heritage individuals, grow up feeling like they exist between worlds. How did you develop the language to describe, who you are? And when did you stop trying to fit in and start owning where you truly belong?
Well, I really appreciate you expressing the importance of language. I think adoption in general has always been kind of taboo or not, really socially acceptable, particularly even international, but even here in the United States. And I don't know if people know, but 6 in 10 people, wherever you are, in a crowd, in a family, in a room, at a stadium, has some connection to adoption. And I think the more as you're sharing is being able to share your story and have the language, you can connect and also educate people, especially particular for international adoption. There's always this kind of perception of, oh, you adopt this little Korean, little cute Asian baby. And I was like, we actually grow up and become adults. So what really was a pivot in my time of my identity development was in high school after my first trip to Korea. So the sense of not belonging, we created the Mixed Roots High School Culture Diversity Group. And we organized as multicultural students, international students. Back in the day, we had an amazing international foreign exchange student program. So we were welcoming all these different students with different backgrounds. We also organized to get Dr. Martin Luther King Day off. Back in the day, that was not a federal holiday nationwide. So we had rallied the administration, the principal, the social worker, and really to fast forward with this journey during the pandemic, I got this alert about Mixed Roots, and I find out that this high school group still exists today, wow. 30 years later.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So do you remember being 3.5 or under 3.5? Do you have a lot of memory? I know it's hard to remember back then, but you remember?
So very good question.
Yeah.
So to answer that, I remember actually being at the airport. We were the last ones at the airport, of course. I'm very grateful for my mom because she actually kept I call them my little clothes. Those are the clothes I literally just came wow. on the back of my, what do you call it when you say you just had clothes on the back of your, clothes on
show off with the clothes on your back.
Clothes on your back.
Yeah. I had no bag, no box or anything. I literally just got hand delivered over to my mom.
Wow. Do you remember anything before that, or that's your first memory?
So there is actually a lot of research on language and memory. And so it's kind of like if you lose your language, you lose your memory. And so I do really wish I did. Now, after I had the opportunity to start or go back to Korea a second time. And that is when I did go to visit my orphanage because I found out it still exists. And that was in 2010. Okay. And that is where the founder's son was saying, he was giving me the tour of the orphanage. He said, this door was here, this floor. Do you remember? I'm like, no, I can't. Yeah.
Wow. So for many adoptees, even the act of asking questions about your origins can feel emotionally risky. What emotional barriers did you have to push through to become a public voice for this movement?
You have amazing questions. No, I mean, I just feel like I'm just so grateful to be able to answer these questions because there's so many people that don't have those questions or don't know how to ask. And so thank you.
Of course. I think it's important to share your story, and it's a very, very important story, and more people have to, learn about what the important work that you're doing.
Yeah, and people, it could just be on paper, like this is the story, but what is the human story? What is the emotion that you had to go through, and your highs and lows, and you're trying to find your identity, and to make that a powerful thing.
Yeah.
Well, instead of being something that you're ashamed of, or people have to ask questions about and you're not sure how to answer, making that powerful.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I think when Mixed Roots Foundation, so after my first trip or second trip to Korea, I came back and started the Mixed Roots Foundation in 2011.
In 2011.
And that was kind of based out of San Francisco because I had moved from, this was what kind of funny, going back to identity. Yay! So going from Minnesota, predominantly white, I go to San Francisco. It was a little diversion because I've always wanted to come to LA. But I go to San Francisco like, oh my gosh, this is the most Asians I've seen in my life. Yeah. And a lot of international. And then I moved down to LA later and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the most Koreans I've seen in my life, But I think the identity development, exactly to your point, Eve, is about when I've kind of realized that I'm not white. I always say my heritage is Korean, but my culture is white. I grew up with, eating hot dishes and potato casserole, the green bean dish casserole and steak and potatoes. And actually to this day, everyone says, oh, let's go out for sushi or raw fish or seafood. I'm just like, sorry, I don't eat that, and, I'm Asian. But going to your point as far as, the struggle and challenge, I think growing up, there is this misperception of the reverse of, oh, you look Korean or Asian, you speak the language or the culture. And so that was kind of a balance of identity and culture to have to share, especially when I went back to Korea the second time. I remember I was in the taxi and this guy was like, why don't you know Korean? You should know Korean, And but then I got this other response where there's this older Korean gentleman, and when he saw that I had been adopted and the orphan, he goes, oh, baby here and baby over here. And they're like, do they treat you okay?
Aw.
Yeah. So, I think exactly, it's in whatever environment you're in. Again, I've been very blessed with great parents. I think the flip side of adoption is to raise that awareness about all experiences. And I think that's the thing with Mixed Roots Foundation is we're able to cross-sect identity within adoption, foster care, and then the international experience. So
amazing. So your parents were very supportive of you.
Oh, I'm sorry. This is what I wanted to share when you asked about kind of when did you realize. So when I went back to Korea the second time, I sat my parents down. So there is this whole kind of issues of loyalty and insecurity or potential of feeling like you're betraying your adoptive parents because you want to go search for, say your real family or your birth parents. And I had to sit them down. I said, Mom, Dad, I have this opportunity to go back to Korea. I do have a desire to do a birth search. But just please know, I love you very much. You are always my parents and they have been very supportive. But I think one thing that kind of saddened me is that though on the flip side, they probably would never go to Korea. And so just in the time frame or logistics. So it's kind of have to hold this journey on my own. And a lot of adoptees have to hold that. And I mean, I just have to say, I meet adoptees every day. It's, and adult adoptees. And there are adult adoptees that say, I can't talk about my experience with anyone because no one gets it.
Right.
Yes. Wow. I think just before we came on camera, I asked you this question. Did you actually get to meet your birth parents?
So I'm really excited the fact that I did find out that my orphanage, even just 15 years ago, still exists today. So this year is a really big year because it's also the 75th anniversary of the Korean War. And so we're working on a separate film to kind of really highlight that Children of War. But I think even the broader journey of where my life is kind of culminated to this day, literally, is that 5 years ago, and this does tie into the journey, and this is kind of what brought me to your question, is, we had the pandemic. But then with my oldest brother, he did pass away unexpectedly in 2021. And so he struggled with mental illness, depression, and supposedly ruled as a suicide. This is in Minnesota. And then a year and a half later, my dad passes away. He had prostate cancer. Luckily, we had a great journey and experience with him because he had actually celebrated 22 years with his heart transplant.
Oh my God.
So, I'm daddy's little girl. I watch football. We always did sports, and but kind of fast forward to being able to kind of go through that hardship, tragedy. Mixed Roots Foundation has always been there, and with my mom now, we actually were holding events, and we had kind of postpone them, and so now we're back, and so now what we're doing is, to your question, is I'm going back to Korea in 2 weeks.
Wow. Oh my goodness. Roger is standing right there saying we've got 2 minutes. It's gone by so fast.
Way
we
too
really need to come
fast.
back
Yeah,
and
I have
have
so many more
full
questions.
episode with you, Roger.
Yes, and
So-
maybe tell you how my trip to
Of
Korea
course,
goes.
right? And
Yes,
and
yes.
so the last question is, if you were to have dinner with 3 people dead or alive, who would it be and why? A fun question.
Oh my goodness. Well, one would be, say, my birth mother, or say birth father. A lot of birth fathers get the short stick of they not
That's
being
right.
cared for. So birth family. I would say, I'm from Minnesota, so I would love Prince. It's going to be 10 years. 10 years coming up in 2026, and also 15 years for the foundation. And I don't know the third one. I can't think off the top of my head right now.
Thank you so much for sharing your journey. Your experiences are different, but very powerful. I mean, incredible.
Yeah, thank you. We support you. And is there any way we can support your foundation?
Well, wonderful. Thank you so much for having me. I'm quite honored. I would, love for you to just stay in tune, at Mixed Roots. And
Roots.
we are going to be launching the Mixed Roots Academy next for 2026, focusing on multicultural adoptees, foster youth, in entrepreneurship.
That's fantastic.
to be
Thank
continued.
you.
Thank you.
Wasn't that an amazing episode with Holly?
That was so good. She was inspiring for sure.
Very, very inspiring. Incredible.
Okay, so our next guest is Karima McKenzie. She is a mental health and trauma healing advocate, a voice for emotional resilience, and a guide for women and young people who feel like they are fighting invisible battles. Her work, including her wellness platform, Temples Are Sacred, centers on the belief that mind, body, and spirit must be honored, protected, and restored, especially after trauma. So she joins us today not only as a survivor, but someone who is ready to speak her truth in service of others who are still trying to fight their way out of the darkest moments. So, Karima, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it, and we can't wait to hear your story. You've been known to say, I've been through some things and I'm ready to share my story. So
Yes.
what was that moment when you realized that your healing wasn't just about you, it was about other people, and you can lend your voice to help other people heal also? What was that moment like?
Yes. So before I begin, I just want to thank you, Eve, for opening this platform for me to speak. Everything was moving so fast at the Gifted Lounge when we met, but in a quick 30 seconds, I get to share my story, and to be here in this moment to share, I'm extremely, extremely thankful. Yes. So Kathy as well.
Thank you.
Thank you for inviting me to the space. And to answer your question, September 24th, 2021, I had to check myself into a mental institution. And I was battling deep anxiousness, depression, burnout, and suicidal ideation, obviously. Thankful that my family witnessed the signs, and, I woke up one morning and I had to move back home at the time, and my mom was there, and I said, I need help. And just those 3 words is what would begin the transformation. Spent 7 days there, and the first 3 days I was very manic, very paranoid, very the extreme level of manic and anxious. And after those 3 days, they, filled with medication and things like that, I finally came back to my right state of mind. And then that's when it hit me. It was like a bulldozer, that hit my heart and said, whoa, how did you end up here?
Yeah, sometimes we have to go through really dark moments
Correct.
to realize what our path is in life or what we're supposed to be doing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's what happened, right? My whole life flashed before my eyes, as anyone can imagine being in that situation. And I flashed to my 12-year-old self. Yeah. And my 12-year-old self was angry.
Wow.
She was angry, and she wished that someone told her the truth about life. And that's when I started to write The Temples Are Sacred and So Are You book, because I realized that I ended up where I was. At the time, I was 38, and I ended up there because I wasn't honoring my temple. So this is the work that was birthed in the hospital.
So it started off as a book.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And then the book went into an acronym, which I called the Temples Method.
Wow.
And Temples is 7 letters, and it represents the 7 ways that we can embody love for self on a daily basis.
Was writing therapeutic for you?
Oh, for sure, because
Yeah.
I had nothing but time to
Yeah.
sit with self.
Yeah.
It was with the divine creator and time with myself. And that's when I vowed in that moment to, 1, never end up back there.
Right.
Wow.
And then 2, okay, how do you do the steps to ensure that you don't end up back here?
Wow.
And that's where the Temples Method came in.
First, I gotta thank you, going back to the gifting, for being so gracious to carry my bags. And I was like, no, I can do this. I seriously can. But I'm also grateful that we had the chance to connect.
Yes.
And you shared your journey.
Yeah.
And I really thought it would be powerful for you to come share you experienced significant challenges that impacted both your physical and emotional health.
Yes.
Without going further than you're comfortable, how did those experiences reshape your understanding of strength and survival?
So my message, why it lands, is because of my truth and transparency, right? So I don't feel a way about sharing the depths of what I was going through.
Of course.
So what led to the anxiousness and depression was, first, overworking the things that I no longer enjoy, right? Second was a brutal divorce that was...
You went through a brutal
Yes,
wow.
yes. That was really taxing on my emotional well-being. And third was my physical health. I was battling a number of physical health challenges as well. And it all came crashing all at one time, and all 3 of them was just like, I can't do life anymore.
Oh, wow.
I can't, and that's, again, the decision I made at that time was to choose myself by getting the help that I needed. And when we dive into what the Temples Method is, you'll see how I weaved in the importance of mental, physical, and spiritual health as a necessity in order to sustain ourselves, especially in the times that we live in today.
Yeah, because health is not just one thing. It's not just our body. It's
Correct.
not just our minds. It's the whole package.
Correct.
For sure.
Yes.
And the fact that you are helping others, because sharing your experience, what you went through to help others is commendable.
Yes,
And thank you
thank
so
you.
much for doing that.
Thank you.
Because there's a lot of people out there right now struggling
Yes.
Yeah.
and that don't know what to do.
Correct.
So I think one of the questions would be, what is some advice that you can give to people who are struggling? Just the simple, basic advice to start out. What are some first steps to feel grounded and to feel okay?
Yeah, so one of the first steps that I had to take was understanding how to connect with myself emotionally, right? That requires nervous system regulation. something that most people don't spend time doing. We get up and we go. We get up when we start the day. And we're not grounded enough within ourselves before we take on other energies, before we interact and engage with other people. We haven't even connected with ourselves.
Wow.
So that's the first thing, is to connect with yourself. Spend 10, 15, 20 minutes a day before you step foot out the door, just to ground yourself.
Do you
into the
recommend
present moment.
like yoga or like
so
meditation? I mean,
it's a
how?
variety of ways, right?
Okay.
So it's breath work. There's meditation, whether guided or just listening to your own inner voice. There is prayer. There is a multitude of things people can do to just connect with themselves prior to starting the day.
Wow.
Yeah.
I like that. That's so powerful. So in your journey,
Yes.
have you experienced a moment when you felt transformation, not as a sudden breakthrough, but as a quiet shift?
Yes. So the journey to love for self took me years. And it was a lot of those moments where I spent time going on self-love retreats and working with different practitioners. And over time, you have these aha moments. So that will come even in the form of books that I read. I've read some amazing books that helped me, like The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. I understood that the now is the greatest gift that we have.
Wow.
So these are some of the things I incorporated. And then that's when I'm doing those morning practices, that's when I'll have those aha moments.
That's great.
Yeah, and
You
it's
know what?
integration over time.
What I really like about your story is that you're educating others.
Yes.
And it's a topic that a lot of people do not even talk about, because a lot of people think anything related to your mental well-being is a taboo. And I so appreciate you for sharing your journey openly and all the struggles, the challenges, and kudos to you for using your platform to educate the world.
Thank
Yeah,
you so
because
much.
people do feel it's taboo. They feel like maybe if they have something going on, that it's a weakness or something. But it's not. I feel like we are all humans and we are all going through things. So sharing your story, talking. I just feel, they always say, just talk to people.
Yes.
That's why therapy comes in and all that,
Yes.
and having good mentors and people that you can rely on, and just talking and
Yes.
getting through it and realizing you're not alone. So many people are struggling with.
Yeah.
And that's why I became the unconditionally loving mentor, right?
That's right.
That's what my work is. It's walking people through the journey, this 9-week framework that webs them into what that looks like, how they show up for themselves every single day consistently. And it's powerful.
It is powerful.
Yes.
And I think for me personally as well, I talk about mental well-being a lot. And one of the organizations that I told Roger that Roger introduced me to is Promise to Live. I love that organization. I believe in their mission, because one of the things that people see online, and they see someone, they're like, oh, that person looks amazing, successful.
Yeah.
But I think at some point in time, as an actress, there are days that I'm busy. There are weeks that I'm not busy. We go through the quiet moments. And sometimes your mind takes over your physical body.
Yes.
And even though I'm exercising consistently, I do all the right things. I eat clean. I have family.
Yeah.
But I'm a human being.
Absolutely.
And I think it's so, so important to talk about the good, the bad. It's not like there's something wrong with me, but it's just the reality of life.
Well, they always say when you go through really stressful moments in life that your health begins to fail, and you become,
1000%.
and it's a mind body connection.
It is.
So you have to keep your physical health on good terms, and your mental health is so important. Like you were saying, it's all one unit.
Yeah. This is why I firmly believe that self-love is the only love, right? I believe that if we feel like our cup's full, right, we're able to give to others from our overflow. And I think we don't spend enough time filling our own cups. And that's why people are depleted. That's why they're depressed. And the biggest point I want to make here is that most people don't even know or realize that they're depressed or that they're anxious. They're hiding themselves in work.
Right.
They're hiding themselves in relationships.
Right.
Yeah.
These things are what are the contributing factors to not even recognizing that you're not mentally well. And that's what I'm here to do. I'm here to shine a light. I'm here to show people what it means to truly honor your temple every single day.
Wow.
Amazing.
That's powerful.
And so the Temples Are Sacred
Yes.
Foundation, what do you do there? Is it a one-on-one type of thing?
So it's a combination, right?
Okay.
Because I originally started out as addressing only high school students. And then I realized every time I address high school students, the adults in the room were resonating with the message. So then I was like, okay, I want to make it for everyone. It's for everyone. So whatever the need is, I want to meet you where you are. So I teach the SEL curriculum on the high school level. Then I go, it's a 9-week framework and the college students, and then it's one-on-one with adults.
Wow.
Yes.
That's
So
powerful.
yeah, well,
and you've traveled around the
I've
world.
traveled around
You've
the
been
world.
to Egypt. I've seen pictures around that you've traveled. So what advice would you give to, and we're going into a beautiful time. I don't know when this episode is going to air. It could air in 2026, but it's supposed to be evergreen, but we're going into a very difficult time. It could be beautiful, and it's the holiday season. It's wonderful, but it's also very depressing because there are a lot of people out there who live alone. There are a lot of people without families, and people struggle around this time of the year. They cannot buy gifts for loved ones.
Yes.
So what advice would you give to those people?
I have to go with what freed me in my darkest hour. And that was finding the gift in the present moment. If you can just be thankful for the chair beneath you.
Yeah.
Be thankful for your feet being planted on the ground. Being thankful for the breath that you breathe.
Yeah.
I like that. Oh,
Staying in the now is the gift.
And gratitude.
And
So
gratitude,
important.
right? Thankful for every single thing that you have. That's what freed me. I had a choice in that moment. I could be bitter about my divorce. I could be bitter about my physical health. I could be bitter about every single thing that was being thrown my way. But I chose life, and I chose the present moment.
Because being bitter is just going to make it worse.
It is,
Doesn't help.
Yes.
Yeah.
So rather than, during those times of depression, rather than focus on what's not there, focus on the good that you share with that person or the good times.
you know what though? People usually, I can't speak, but I know some people stay in situations because of financial reasons,
Yes,
right?
yes.
So you talked about your divorce.
Yes.
And you were able to navigate that very difficult period of your life. A lot of people would stay because they're not able to afford. So how did you navigate those challenges, knowing how difficult it is, going from being in a relationship
Correct.
to like
Yeah.
choosing to be alone and liking yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. It was a humbling experience. I had to move back home. And
Nothing wrong with that.
Sometimes it could be that. Sometimes it's taking intentional moments within your current environment and situation to find your peace, right? What can you create in the situation that you're in to make it better for yourself? It's going to look different for everyone.
Cool.
For me, I had to go back home. If that option is available to you, if you're listening, go home. It's okay.
Yeah, it's okay.
It's okay.
I like that.
If you have that option,
we
for
could look
sure.
at that as the walk of shame,
No.
right?
Yeah.
But
So what's next for you?
what's next for me? Wow. So Temples has a spirit of its own. I'm being called into different energies and connecting with different people. So I'm continuing in the college space. I'm doing weekly webinars for those who may be interested in my program. And I'm calling in women particularly because I understand that out of the 49% of people that are burnt out, 46% of it are women. So that's why I'm starting with women. Wow. And I want to call them in and come into a warm, welcome, unconditional, loving space to heal through the Temples method. So that's what's next.
I love you have a calm voice. It's
Yes.
very reassuring.
Very. So this has gone by so fast. Roger is there counting 3 minutes down. So if you were to have dinner with 3 people that are alive, who would it be and why?
It would be my father. Unhealed trauma is one of the things that contributes to Temples, right? And that was my first major traumatic experience, right? He's deceased, so it would be with him. It would be with you, Eve.
Thank you.
Yes, to learn more about you and your work and your mission and vision. And then it would probably be my grandma, my late grandmother as well. Yeah, I have a connection to my ancestors.
Amazing. Wow, this has been such an enlightening, very powerful, very emotional. Thank you for being with us. Kathy, what an incredible episode.
Yes, it was so good. Oh. So let's see. We have a closing here.
Yes.
Holly and Karima, both of you, thank you so much for your journeys. Though your experiences are very different, there is a common thread that brings both of you to there's a transition happening. It's an identity is being reclaimed and pain is turned into purpose, which is so important. Thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Kathy, for hosting. Roger, thank you for producing. Bree, thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, please remember to watch this very inspirational episode on the Discovery Pod with Eve's YouTube channel or your favorite podcast platform. You never know who's going to stop by, so remember to check us out every Thursday at 12 p.m. Pacific time. I'll see you again soon. Bye, everyone.
Bye.